Let me get started with each one of you telling me what the purpose was behind the companies that you founded and where you find yourselves in that journey today. Let's start with you.
Sure. My name is Ravi. I'm founder of Upstocks. I think the goal for our company is just, so we're a discount electronic brokerage company out of India, one of the largest ones. We have about 10 million customers around the country. I think, India is obviously on this, complete transformative, incredible growth path in these next 10, 15, 20 years. And our job is just to get a lot of the people to be able to participate in the growth economy and to just be able to grow their savings and wealth. At least as much as in the India growth story allows them to.
But I want to address a larger issue, and it goes back to the founder's mindset. It goes back to the purpose which drove you to start this company in the first place. As you look back, what would you say have been the biggest challenges in that journey so far? What would you say have been the loneliest moments for you of being able to get this company started and get it to where it is today? And what today keeps you most excited as well?
I think we've been around for like 11 years, so before India had this fantastic internet ecosystem that we all kind of enjoy today. I think growing the early years was obviously very difficult. It was all a very paper-based process. You couldn't open up an account online as you can do today. So we were happy opening like 100 accounts a month, and now we're opening like 1 million accounts a month. So it's a very different era, I would say. What keeps me awake? I mean, look, I think the opportunity is just so exciting, so I think, and one of the things about the Indian, at least, fintech ecosystem is that it's very easy to do more and more and more. Everything is like an API call away, essentially. So we can get into lending, we can get into whatever we want, right? And so I think the hard thing is to say no and to be really, core to understand what your core competency is, and be true to your company's initial vision, essentially, and stay the path. So that's what I, spend a lot of time thinking about. Where should we be, say, 10 years from now, and making sure that we, drive towards that. So.
I think you've touched upon a very important leadership lesson and a very important business lesson as well, Ravi, because I think a large part of business is also learning the art of sacrifice, which is not to do what you shouldn't be doing to start with. There is this temptation to do everything, be a little bit of something for everybody, but I think the art of sacrifice is also important. Alok, let's get started with you and where you find yourself as far as the journey is concerned today, and more importantly, where you believe you're going to be in the next 5 years on.
Yeah, sure. So Ixigo has now been around for about 16 years. We take pride in being called more a cockroach than a unicorn. and I think...
It's probably far sturdier and more real than a unicorn, right?
Yeah, I think the narrative becomes more oriented towards cockroach every 3 or 4 years, and then we go back to celebrating unicorns. But I think if you just look at, the journey, right? Like we started with a singular vision of solving for the pain points of Indian travelers. How we did it has evolved over time, right? We started more on Meta, where we were comparing, flights, and those were the desktop era of the internet. There were no mobile phones, and then the mobile evolution came, and we realized that there was this huge opportunity on the next billion users who largely use trains and buses, and most of the OTAs were at that time just copying the Western template of solving for flights and hotels. We went after that opportunity very early and sort of just rode on that. And our ambition still remains to build the best customer experience in this space. Despite so many travel players having been around, all of us have had broken experiences when it comes to dealing with online travel companies. And travel is an experiential category. It's something where a lot of our emotions are linked to every vacation that we take with our family. We want to come back with good memories, but you have a lot of these small pain points before, during, and after the trip, which sort of ruin the experience time to time. So our ambition really is to go and use technology, use AI to solve those, make it more preemptive, make it much more intuitive. I think we're just getting started on that journey. I like this day one concept. It sort of relates to how we think about our existence.
Shubh, let's address the issue of MPL and how exciting the gaming space is looking at this point in time. And do you believe that you're 50% where you were when you started the company to where you are today? Or do you believe that you're closer to 100% in terms of being able to achieve the original vision of the idea?
No, I think we're just getting started. Probably we'll say we are probably at 5%, not at 50 or 100%. I think gaming is something which is evolving and has always been the pinnacle of consumer internet as such. We're just getting started. Probably in India today, we're just scratching the surface with in-app purchases as such, and there's massive growth potential with respect to Indian IP, Indian content, and we'll see that coming up a lot in the next 5 to 10 years as such. So we believe we have an important part to play. We believe content is something which is going to be very, very pivotal, and it's going to be more local. And we also believe that it's monetizable. We're there. We have proven that in the last 4 years, as such as well, and a lot of other game tech companies which are here as such as well. So we are very hopeful. We think that we just scratched the surface, and there's a long way to go.
You know, similar to what I just asked Ravi as well as Alok, what has been the hardest part of the journey so far for you of being able to get things up and running?
I think the hardest part of the journey, what I would say is, I think as a lot of founders us is, we plan for product market fit, but actually product market fit is an accident which happens, and then you have to plan on the go as such. And I think the last few years was more about rapid growth and all the ramifications of it as such as well, growing from probably a 100-member team to like a 1,000-member team. And I think this year, I mean, as how the markets are, and a lot of other founders will understand as well, is it's more about sustainability. It's more about being cockroachish and not vanish as a unicorn. So that's something which is, I think, is going to be very important in the coming years for us.
So let me start by asking you about building in resilience, building in sustainability. Ravi, you know, how are you doing things differently today, if you are at all, in comparison to what you were in the boom time?
No, great question. I think, yeah, the word nowadays is profitability and, sustainability. So, look, we're a profitable business. So, we were able to turn profitable, at the drop of a dime and just cut costs where we needed to cut costs, especially on the marketing side. But I think, it just speaks to, money doesn't always exist, right? The free flow of money doesn't always exist. So I think building, businesses, the right way matters. You have to build sustainable businesses long term and always have that in mind. So I think these core business growth principles come into play nowadays more than ever. But I speak to founders all the time. Some of them are obviously struggling quite a bit, and they had to completely change their business models to flip to becoming profitable as soon as possible. So it's been challenging, I think, for the entire ecosystem as a whole, and hopefully, there's better times ahead.
Alok?
Yeah, I think we've learned these lessons the hard way because we've survived many crises. Like COVID was the third crisis in our journey. And I think for us, it's always been about doing things the right way. And sometimes the right way takes more time, right? So you can't build a great culture, if your metric is to hire 1,000 people without checking at, are they a cultural fit or not. You can't build great companies by saying, I'm just going to throw money at the problem and scale X, 4X, 5X, without looking at whether customer NPS is great, without looking at whether retention is good, without looking at whether I'm actually solving the real customer pain area. Do I have a product market fit? Based on FinTracker's data, there are only 80 to 100 companies in India which in FY22 had more than $50 million of revenue, and less than 20% of those were actually profitable. Right, and I think we have to ask ourselves as an ecosystem that says that we have X number of, what's the last count? I've lost track, 100 and something unicorns. How many of these companies are going to stand up and say that, our revenues and our profits are actually going to, truly deserve the valuation that we're sitting on today? Yeah. And we're going to be sitting on a very hard problem where we'll take 2, 3, 4 maybe years to catch up to the valuation that you had at the last round. But I think the root cause is, how did you build the company, right? Was it built with the goal post of raising the next round in mind, or was it built with the goal post of solving a real customer pain area? Because the second goal post is actually harder, takes longer, involves some of the stuff that Puneet was talking about, which is, can you set the right culture? Can you hire the right people? Can you, in the tough times, take the right calls? So I'll give you a small example. During COVID, we went down to 0 revenue. Now, we didn't let go a single member in our team. And yet, when the bounce back happened, we actually bounced back higher than pre-COVID within 6 months of
Yeah.
the reopening. And the only reason was we just had a very customer-first approach. We gave back refunds before everybody else, even before we got them back from airlines. And I think in hindsight, that's those kind of decisions where you are putting the customer first, the team first, are what end up building the DNA that allows us to be sustainably profitable in the last 3 years. I mean, during the COVID year, we were the only profitable OTA.
Let's address this disconnect between the addressable market and the monetizable market, because I think that is instructive for many individuals here in this room who are going about building their business. How are you looking at it?
I can talk about gaming as such. I think what we are seeing is definitely expansion in terms of monetizable base as such. But definitely, I think what businesses need to do and what we are trying to do is focus a lot on where the pools of these customers are. Definitely not the story of that there are 800 million smartphones, but it's all about the fact that...
Have we oversold this story of 800 million smartphones?
I believe so. But for gaming, to be honest, I think it's better that it's that many devices and that many gamers out there, because in gaming, you monetize over engagement. So even when somebody's paying for free, you're monetizing through ads, or if somebody's interested in content, they're paying for that content as such, either via in-app purchases as such. So I think with respect to gaming, the boundaries are far have increased far more. For example, I think 5 years back, we couldn't have thought that a good 5-10% of the audience today and founders would be from gaming. But today it is the case because we're able to monetize the current user base, and users are paying for content, not just for video content, but also for gaming content as such. However, I think, yes, there is a little overselling on the front of that these many users are there or not, but paying users are fairly less, but there is appetite.
Yeah.
I think for a country like India, to be honest, look, if you compare it to Europe, the kind of paying user base that we have in India, even if we can touch that, we can probably have the biggest company based out of Europe, for example.
I want to understand from you how you see the market changing and evolving.
I think short term is always going to be ups and downs, right? Especially in the world of stock markets and wealth creation. It's very cyclical, right, as you're keenly aware. So that's just the reality of the industry we live in. But if you look at a 10, 15, 20-year view, India is on this amazing growth trajectory. So that's the kind of platform we're building for, right? If you look at a comp in, say, the US, you have a company called Charles Schwab, which a lot of people would know. Schwab, in an economy of $24 trillion GDP of the US, has $9 trillion in AUM. $9 trillion. A third of the US economy they have in AUM. So as India kind of ascends its growth trajectory, it's gonna happen there too. It's just a matter of time. So we don't play the short game, and again, the importance of building a sustainable business becomes even more relevant, right? We're not building for just becoming a unicorn or multi-corn or whatever. It's
decacorn.
Yeah, whatever the term of the day is, right? But it's about building sustainable long-term platforms that help people, provide value to the customer, have a great product market fit. And in our case, right, it's just about literally getting people to invest in the India growth story. So that's what we stand for. That's what we do. So it's a long-term.